right, you ready for me to open it up?
I don't know.
Let's open it up.
Yeah,
Here it comes.
All right. Hello and welcome, everyone, to another episode of the After Buzz podcast. Of course, with me is the one, the only, Buzz Adams.
Hello.
My name is Nico Jimmy, your host for the After Buzz, and today I think we've got an exciting topic that Buzz is going to enjoy. But first, Buzz, how you liking that coconut Dr. Pepper?
You know, I bought it because it sounded like the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of. But it's surprisingly not bad.
How would you describe the taste?
It's like if you were on the beach drinking a Dr. Pepper and you took a drink and then
the waves and mist hit you in the face.
No. And then you reached over and licked somebody who was laying out all slathered in
coconut oil.
Coconut oil, yeah.
Somebody was telling, I think it was Joanna. Somebody else was, Mike said that the taste reminded him of a blue icy, like
maybe
a Hawaiian icy with Dr. Pepper.
It's not as good as a regular Dr. Pepper.
It's weirdly good. It's kind of got an interesting taste that makes you want to take another sip.
I'm drinking it, but I really wish they would bring back the caffeine-free Dr. Pepper and the caffeine-free Diet Dr. Pepper.
I thought you were making that up as if like they couldn't have discontinued caffeine-free.
They paused it because the supply chain during COVID, and as far as I know, they never got it back up and going again.
They never restored the supply chain.
And if anybody's seen caffeine-free, and that goes for Coke too, if you've seen a caffeine-free Coke or Dr. Pepper, check the expiration date. I wonder how long it's been since they made them. They don't carry them at Albertsons anymore or Walmart. I can't find them anywhere.
Sorry.
I don't drink water. I just...
Yes, shockingly. You've survived to 69 years old.
I'm not 69.
That's a funny age, though.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Today, I have an evolutionary topic to discuss. Buzz is a big fan of evolution.
I don't know if I'm a fan of it. I'm
a big admirer of evolution.
Sure. I'm glad we did it. It was a good decision. Whoever came up with that idea, kudos to them.
So I came upon this headline: "Wild orangutan seen healing his wound with a plant." And I thought, what? And then they have the picture of the orangutan and now a video, and he has this sore almost under his eye. It looks like a big fleshy sore. It's kind of pink.
All right.
A Sumatran orangutan in Indonesia has self-medicated using a paste made from plants to heal a large wound on his cheeks. It is the first time a creature in the wild has been recorded treating an injury with a medicinal plant.
Well, okay. Do you want me to give you my first reaction?
It was a plant poultice.
Meaning he got a mortar and pestle and ground it up.
Chewed it up and then packed the wound with it.
No, what would be interesting is if this information is passed down from one generation to another. Or, sometimes if you've got a boo-boo, maybe you just rub different stuff on it. It just so happens that this ape got lucky that he used a medicinal plant. Does he know it?
That's a good point.
If he does know it and it works, was he able to share it with any other members of the
tribe?
The troop, I think they're called.
Is it starting to fascinate you now? Is it starting interesting?
Well,
the wound closed up and healed in a month.
Yes, but if they're saying the orangutan figured this out on his own, or was it just
they're not saying that. They have no idea how the orangutan figured it out.
If you're in pain or you feel an injury, I think a lot of animals would lick it, for instance. Maybe orangutans are smarter than dogs. Maybe this one said, well, I'm going to chew up some of this and then put it on there and see how that feels.
So the scientists say the behavior could come from a common ancestor that's actually shared by humans and great apes. It might have been a trait or just something that whatever our common ancestor was used.
Then that would be weird that this is the first time it's been observed in the wild. You would think if it was something that goes back evolutionarily,
they might not have the right plants or anyways. Right. They are our closest relatives.
What was the plant? St. John's wort.
They believe that he was injured fighting with a rival male orangutan. Because he had been making these weird calls or sounds in the days before they were already kind of watching him.
All right, don't dogs sometimes eat grass? And I've heard like a vet on TV say it's because that's what they do when they have like an upset stomach or something? So that would almost be an example of an animal medicating.
Yeah, that's a good way of, maybe. The team saw the orangutan. They have a name for him. His name's Raucus.
But he's a wild
orangutan, yeah. Chewing the stem and leaves of a plant called Akar kuning, an anti-inflammatory and antibacterial plant that is also used locally to treat malaria and diabetes.
I don't know. It'd be nice to get inside his head. Hey, are you doing this because you know this plant has this effect? If so, who taught you that? Was it your father? Is it knowledge that's passed down from one ape generation to the other?
Fascinating, right?
Yeah, pretty fascinating. So for a long time, anthropologists would say what really sets humans apart from the apes or from any other animal is our ability to use tools.
Mm-hmm.
But they were a little hasty because they've seen apes, chimps, and bonobos and gorillas using sticks to get ants out of the inside of a hollow log or out of an anthill or whatever. It's like, well, that's a tool. Also, crows and ravens and blackbirds, all of the they're known as the corvid family of birds, can have been seen bending pieces of metal in a way that they can use it to their advantage to get food or whatever. So no longer can they say, well, humans are the only animals that use tools.
Now we know we have a common ancestor that might have too. Scientists were already aware that great apes used medicine to try to heal themselves. In the 60s, Jane Goodall would see whole leaves in the poop of chimpanzees and other great apes, swallowing leaves that were already known to have medicinal properties to humans.
Oh, okay. Well, but
they had never seen a wild animal applying a plant to a wound before.
Jane Goodall worked with gorillas or chimps? Mostly, or all just apes?
I think she with the great apes in general. Yeah, chimpanzee's great ape, right?
It is
because of the no tail, or is it that
okay? So the ape family has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 species in it. That is chimpanzees.
Guys, listen to what an expert in evolutionary biology Buzz is. It's more of a hobby.
Chimpanzees, bonobos, which are kind of like chimpanzees,
but instead of being angry and using violence,
they're like the love. And
they fuck.
They settle everything by having sex. That's the difference between the bonobo and they're basically chimpanzees, but they're a different category. Gorillas, orangutans,
orangutan,
and then the fifth species of ape is us, Homo sapiens.
Yeah. Not my cousin. She has a tail.
Does she? Not Jason Alexander and Shallow Hal. Remember, he had a,
right,
he had
that
a
was
little
hilarious.
tail.
All right. So this made me think about other adaptations that might have happened. Buzz and I have talked before about human, and Buzz had argued with me in saying that humans have not adapted because of the process takes so long. He says that humans within 5,000 years have not adapted to, haven't had any physical adaptations to things.
Oh, no. I would never have said that.
Really?
We've gotten taller, because of good nutrition. But as far as a lot of what drives us and motivates us is not based on an urban lifestyle. It's very much based on a hunter-gatherer lifestyle because that was a part of our history.
Right.
Not for 100 years, not for 1,000 years, but for tens of thousands of years. That was just so solidly ingrained. So when you do things, a lot of the times it doesn't make any sense, but it would in the
context
perspective of
a hunter
150,000 years ago.
Okay.
A hunter-gatherer, right?
Do you want to hear some of the most recent human adaptations?
Yes, but I want to be clear. I never claim that there haven't been adaptations. There certainly have.
I think we were talking about...
I can give you an example. People who
We were talking about epigenetics, which is a new field of genetic study that says that the environment that we grow up in, and not over thousands of years, but in our own lifetime, the environment actually changes us and our DNA, and can affect your children and your grandchildren.
I can give you some examples of... I would say over the last 20,000 years, human adaptation.
Cool. Yeah, give me your list.
People who live in the Himalayas at high altitude
Yep.
are able to handle that a lot better. You see adult athletes being winded and the little children in Nepal just running around because they are perfectly
high altitude
adapted.
breathing. Yep.
That's one of them. The fact that people of African descent are more likely to get sickle cell anemia is an adaptation against malaria.
Yep.
Is that on your list?
Disease resistance,
Disease resistance, and that's not the only example, but that's one that comes to mind
that's
pretty handily.
Mm-hmm.
The Inuit people are adapted for extremely cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get into stereotypes here too much, but there are a lot of people who, depending on where you live, that you have biologically adapted to the
environmental or climate adaptation. Blue eyes is a really recent mutation.
Now, let me speculate on what that could be.
They believe that it all leads back to one person. That there was one mutation, so everybody with blue eyes. Look it up. Everybody that has blue eyes has a common ancestor.
Was that better eyesight in low sunlight areas?
It doesn't describe why.
Oh, okay.
They might have developed that.
That would be one of my guesses.
That might have not even been a functional, because there are lots of mutations that aren't necessarily functional.
Okay.
They're the phenotypes. It's how it expresses physically. Okay.
Have I been wrong about anything
Nope,
yet?
you have been completely right. I told you, you're an expert.
I'm very fascinated by the whole thing.
Evolutionary biology, I do it in my spare time when I get a chance to read up on it.
More of a hobbyist than anything else.
Alcohol flush reaction. The trait that many East Asian populations have is actually thought to be a way to protect them from a deadly type of cancer.
What is the alcohol flush
reaction?
It
is anytime they drink alcohol, they get flushed face, red.
I think I get that. Sometimes if I have a beer, I get hot. Like my face and neck get hot. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, not all the time.
Well, you might have an East Asian common ancestor.
Don't I wish. I had the 23andMe done, and all I am is just boring European.
Lactase persistence, the ability to digest milk even after weaning. Most animals stop being able to even digest milk
from their own species.
From their own species, right
at a certain age.
At a certain age,
but we can drink. Many of us can.
Well, we've developed the resistance to this enzyme.
Unless you're lactose intolerant,
yes.
Which is kind of a throwback.
Yeah.
Or you lived in a population that was isolated long enough that did not have the kind of animals that you would
want cheese from or milk from.
Or you hadn't domesticated
like yak cheese.
Well, I think
they probably did have yak cheese.
Like horse milk was something that the ancient Mongols, for instance, would,
actually, if you watch,
that's how they invented cheese.
If you watch
on accident
with horse milk, if you watch, what is it? It's Marco Polo. It's called Marco Polo. I think on Netflix, they show a lot of yak milk.
Marco,
a lot of horse milk and stuff.
Marco
Polo. You dummy.
Yeah, they think that some of these ancient Scythian or Mongol warriors would carry milk to drink and for nutrition in a bag made of leather, and that riding on their horse it would curdle and eventually form cheese.
We got cheese, guys.
And that was kind of where cheese came from.
Check the cheese. Free diving. The Bajau people of Southeast Asia can hold their breath underwater for more than 10 minutes to catch fish, which is a genetic change that has adapted them to that environment.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised you'd do that for enough generations. How about this one? Most of the marathons in the world, like 70% of marathons or distance running, have been won by Kenyans. Not just Kenyans, but a very specific region of Kenya. And I don't remember the name of it or the people that live there.
I thought there were some runners like that from Mexico the people that run in their sandals as women and stuff.
Yeah. But these people in Kenya who win the marathons are 0.06% of the population, yet they've won over 70% of all the marathons.
Kenya has a higher altitude, I believe, and so they also they're basically training in high altitude
that one's kind
conditions.
Of a puzzler to me, but yeah, there's a tribe in Mexico, actually not too far from the United States. There's a tribe that routinely runs 20 miles if they need to.
Yeah.
But I don't hear about them. I'm sure those folks have probably done well in running competitions. They'd have to, right?
They do like those ultra marathons and those like like running across an entire country type of thing. Thick, straight black hair. This hair type is common in East Asians and has only evolved within 30,000, probably 30,000 years.
Black hair, thick, straight black hair. Okay.
You don't have black hair.
It's not thick either. Well, it's not thinning.
At least we can finally admit it.
It's not. I've been told
part
this
of the recovery process
by many people who felt my hair. These are women, by the way. That I have very fine hair.
Damn, Buzz, you got some fine.
No, like finely constituted. You know,
finely constituted.
My hair is thin in a different way than your hair is thin.
All right, Dick, come on. And last but not least, in human adaptations that we've seen over the past couple thousand years, lighter bones. A study from 2015 suggests that Homo sapien bones began to weaken around 12,000 years ago, likely due to diet and physical activity that came with the start of farming.
The agricultural revolution.
Right.
If you went back 20,000 years, these people were tough. And
bones made of logs.
Their bones were more dense. They probably had a higher tolerance of pain. You'd think they'd have to. I'm talking about like during the last ice age.
Yeah.
20,000 years ago or so. Yeah, no, I'm fascinated by all that stuff. But I didn't know the thing about our bones becoming lighter.
Yeah. Not so dense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of the After Buzz podcast. Let us know if you have any human adaptations that we didn't mention or that you can think of at Nico at KLAQ.com or Buzz at KLAQ.com.
Can I cap it off with an interesting going back to the ape thing?
Go.
So there had been legends in Greek history and Greek
Bigfoot
of in other parts of the world of a race of dog-faced men. Like they were described as having the faces of dogs.
I have a dog face X.
Covered, mostly covered in hair. And for some reason, they lived in the jungles. They believe this was based on accounts of the very few Europeans, like Alexander the Great, got as far south as India, seeing for the first time baboons. Huh. The baboons had the snouts, and it was like they said, oh, those are hairy men
those are
with
people.
Faces of dogs. It's just like the origin of those kind of stuff is really interesting, I think.
So like the tales of what would be described as maybe a monster.
Yeah, finding out what they think they're actually based on. Like the Cyclops. You've heard about what they believe that is, right?
Probably no.
Fossilized skull of a woolly mammoth or a mastodon.
Oh,
which,
that's right.
An elephant skull.
Where the tusk comes out leaves a hole. So it makes it think like you would have a third eye up there.
Yeah. So back in those days, these people would come across it. They didn't know anything. They didn't know anything about woolly mammoths. They'd already been gone for thousands of years. So they filled in the blanks and said, well, this must be a giant because the skull's so big. And also there's a big cavity. He must have had one eye right in the middle of his head. So they believe that that's where that came from. I'm fascinated by all that stuff. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.